I know there's this thing called schadenfreude where people, take delight in the glee of other people's misfortune. But whenever I see MSDNC collapsing, I don't think this is just taking delight in somebody's misfortune. This to me is the fact that the good guys are winning, because these people are absolutely they are the most despicable and the most horrible and horrid and rancid. And most probably, we will find out that they were, the product of some type of USAID prop up. Because there's anybody in their right mind would watch that godforsaken shit show, which is exactly what it is. By the way, that's a term of art. Shit show. Look it up. Now, let's look at this, shall we? And be clinical about it. Let's don't merely make fun of these decrepit, rancid lunatics and how they don't know what the hell's going on. But there's more blood in the water at MSDNC as surprise ratings emerge. Did you hear this one? Oh, yeah. You see, it's a combination. Let me see, before we begin. Remember, for the longest time, these people didn't care anything about ratings because, as I'm sure we will find out, they were part of that USAID juggernaut. It didn't matter. They didn't have to worry about ratings because theirs was a propaganda unit that was paid for by your money and my money, invariably. But MSNBC has found itself in the middle of a ratings nightmare and a catastrophe, a catastrophic horror show, which is, I think, fantastic when it comes to the notion of it being nightmarish. And the fallout is getting worse by the day. Once considered the go-to network for left. Remember this? This was true. Whenever you would be in Washington or D.C., they love that morning joke. And with Zika, the Zika virus, and Meager. Remember that one? This was the go-to network for left-wingers and all that stuff. And MSDNC is now bleeding viewers, hemorrhaging at an alarming rate, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it great? Because maybe there is this thing called justice. Maybe, just maybe, there is this thing out there which kind of sort of makes sense, which I think is terrific. And the latest ratings reveal that many have long suspected. The network is in free fall. Its audience has dwindled and its relevance is slipping away, along with Joy Reid's hairline. Joy Reid, by the way, with her firing, multiple show cancellations, and growing internal chaos, MSDNC is scrambling to salvage what's left of its crumbling empire. And it's delightful. The ratings disaster that they didn't see coming. That's right, my friends. For years, MSDNC executives and left-wing media elites have insisted that their network is thriving. In fact, they've pointed to Trump-era surges, breathlessly promoted their biggest talking heads, and attempted to convince their shrinking audience that they're still a powerhouse. But reality tells a different story. You see, my friend, the latest cable news ratings show that MSDNC is struggling now to maintain an audience, even with a highly polarized election season in full swing. Primetime viewership has plummeted, and the network's supposed heavyweights, Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell, and Chris Hayes, her doppelganger, by the way, are losing ground like you couldn't believe. Even the return of Maddow 5 nights a week couldn't stop the ratings from nosediving. In fact, the data are clear. Fewer people are watching MSDNC than ever before. And the worst part, if there is a worst part, they're losing ground even to CNN. I mean, this is, nursery monitors do better than CNN. That's right, CNN, the network that has been on life support for years, is suddenly outperforming MSDNC in key time slots. While CNN has its own credibility issues, it has at least attempted some course correction by shaking up its talent roster a little bit and making desperate attempts at balanced reporting. Nobody really wants balance. They want entertaining. And they don't want crazy people. MSDNC, on the other hand, has doubled down on the radical left-wing agenda stuff, alienating moderate viewers and failing to attract a younger demo. And Joy Reid's firing, well, that was just the beginning. You see, the latest shakeup at MSDNC has seen major players getting the axe, including Reid, whose race-obsessed, anti-Trump rhetoric failed to keep viewers engaged. And despite the network's best efforts to prop her up, her ratings were a disaster. And executives finally had no choice but to cut her loose. But joyless Reid's firing is just the beginning, my friends. You see, sources inside the network say more terminations are on the way, as MSDNC desperately tries to plug the holes in its sinking ship. Shows hosted by Eamon Moyelden. I know I'm mispronouncing his name, I think, or her name. I don't even know. Katie Fang and Jonathan Capehart, that twit, have already been canceled, and there are strong rumors that more so-called stars could be next on the chopping block. Who could that be? MSDNC is caught in a vicious cycle, my friend, of its own making. You see, the network built its brand on relentless Trump bashing, hysterical democracy is at risk bullshit narratives, and radical social justice activism. But with Trump now positions for a massive political, not comeback, but a resurgence with MAGA and Doge on the horizon, their fear-based programming is wearing thin. Viewers are tuning out, and MSDNC's panic is palpable, tenable, and well-deserved. And then, my friend, this bit of information: the Maddow experiment has failed. One of the most embarrassing aspects of MSDNC's decline is the failure of the Rachel Maddow experiment. Once the nation's undisputed star, Maddow had reduced her hosting duties to just one night a week, Mondays, while cashing in on a lucrative contract. How did that work? MSDNC executives believed that bringing her back to 5 nights a week, at least for the first 100 days of Trump's return, would stabilize their hemorrhaging ratings. Instead, it backfired spectacularly. Viewers didn't come rushing back for RM's insights on Trump. No, instead they left in droves as her long-winded, conspiracy-laden monologues became even more unbearable, more insufferable. Rachel Maddow has spent more years peddling debunked Trump-Russia collusion theories than you can imagine, and her refusal to move on from those falsehoods has basically turned him into a relic of the past. Oh my gosh, MSDNC's failed attempt to manufacture Trump panic. You saw it. That's right. In a desperate bid to regain viewers, MSDNC has tried to rekindle the hysteria of 2016 and 2020 by warning of Trump's authoritarian return. Every segment, every panel, and every discussion on the network seems to revolve around the idea that Trump is a dictator in waiting who must be stopped at all costs or something like that. The problem? People aren't buying it anymore. It doesn't ring true. It's old. It doesn't make sense. The radical left's Trump derangement syndrome, this TDS nonsense, has exhausted the public. And the scare tactics that worked in 2020, blaming Trump for every problem under the sun, insisting that democracy will collapse if he runs, and accusing every Republican of extremism, these aren't resonating anymore. In fact, they're backfiring. You see, my friends, Americans are struggling with real-world issues: crime, inflation, border security, and government overreach. They see Donald Trump as the one leader willing to take on the establishment and fix what's broken. But MSDNC's constant fear-mongering isn't just outdated, it's actually and actively driving people away from the network. Kind of defeats the purpose, don't you think? And the collapse of MSDNC's once credibility, oh my God. One of the most damning aspects of the whole downfall is the collapse of its perceived credibility. The network has been caught spreading misinformation and outright lies more times than we can count. From pursuing and pushing the Russian hoax to smearing conservative voices as dangerous extremists, MSDNC has been nothing more than a propaganda machine for the radical left. People have noticed. People know this. Trust in mainstream media is at an all-time low. And MSDNC is among the least trusted networks in all of America. Their refusal to acknowledge basic facts, like the disaster of Biden's presidency, the failures of leftist policies, and the reality that Trump's policies worked, this is why viewers are abandoning them altogether. Even their own staff has started to recognize the problem. Leaks from inside MSDNC reveal that producers and executives are worrying about the network's future, but they don't know how to fix it. Some have floated the idea of a major rebrand, shifting MSDNC away from its hard left positioning. But with anchors like Maddow, O'Donnell, and that other one, with them still at the helm, any attempt at change seems impossible. Trump's media dominance is exposing their weakness. In fact, one of the biggest reasons why MSDNC is failing is because they can't compete with Trump's direct communication strategy. Donald Trump's ability to bypass mainstream media and speak directly to the American people, whether through rallies or interviews or social media, has made networks like MSDNC obsolete. When Trump posts a single message on Truth Social or X, it reaches more people than MSDNC's entire primetime lineup combined. The media no longer controls the narrative. They can't dictate what people believe, and that terrifies them. My friend, MSDNC's meltdown is just another example of the broader collapse of the left-wing media establishment. They've lost the public's trust, they've lost their ability to control the conversation, and now they're losing their audience. The future of MSDNC will be more layoffs, more panic, and more failure. So what's next? Well, what's not next? If current trends continue, the network will be forced to make even more drastic cuts. More shows will be canceled. More hosts will be fired. And if things don't turn around soon, MSDNC could be looking at a full-scale restructuring or even an outright collapse. I predict it'll be Maddow, because the management's still pissed off after that song and dance she gave towards Joy Reid. And Joe and Meager in the morning, the worst. The network is caught between two failing strategies. Stick with the radical left-wing propaganda agenda and continue alienating mainstream Americans, or attempt to pivot toward more balanced reporting, more rational reporting, which will enrage their existing base. But then again, 10 people? And drive that paucity of population toward even more radical outlets. Look, neither option looks promising for them. So what's it going to be? MSDNC's numbers are finished, numbered. Their days are numbered. Their numbers are numbered. The latest ratings disaster proves that what many have known for years, MSDNC's time is up. They brand their brand, in essence, on Trump hysteria. But they failed to adapt when the narrative ran out of steam. Their credibility is in tatters. Their talent pool is weak, and their strategy is outdated. Trump, meanwhile, continues to dominate the political conversation, leaving MSDNC flailing in irrelevance. The network's decline isn't just bad luck. It's the inevitable result of calculated years of dishonesty, bad business, and radical left-wing propaganda. MSDNC is bleeding out, hemorrhaging, and my friend, there is no rescue in sight. What do you think, my friends? What's your take on that? Let me know, will you? Put your thoughts and comments below. Write down, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Am I right? Am I wrong? No, I'm right. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And right now, I say to you again, I implore, I beseech, I entreat, I import you to comment as you see fit.